Yo, what's good everyone? It's been a minute since I recorded a video, but I'm finally back, and today I'm actually excited to show you guys this case study, right? So real quick, scaled this account from 12K in revenue to just over 88K. This is in pounds, by the way, so in USD it's over 100K in just the space of 90 days, right? So almost around a 7.5x increase in revenue, right? And interestingly, you can see ROAS almost doubled as well. So let's just break down the numbers real quick. As you can see, October 2025, 12K revenue, 2.5K spent. 3 months later, January, 10.9K spent to generate 88K at 8 ROAS, right? So crazy results. And in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how. And I really want you guys to apply this, right? Because if you just listen to me, what's the point of it, right? Actually apply and understand the principles here. So first things first, as you can see, revenues around 7.5x, and then ROAS almost doubled as well, right? So first things first, what's the diagnosis, right? What was the account looking like? What were some of the key problems in this account? So there were 3 main problems. Right, let me just pull up my pen real quick. The first was the account was PMAX heavy. And the truth is everyone has their own opinions on PMAX, standard shopping, whatnot, standard search, standard shopping. Look, it's a matter of testing and it's a matter of really understanding your offer and the marketplace, your competitors and the auction, right? We use both, but for this account, we actually realized that the account had too many PMAX campaigns and it was leaning too much into smart bidding, right? So at the end of the day, Google is not really like Meta. I know with Meta you can have a broad campaign and a lot of it is about creatives, right? With Google, there's still a high level of media buying that goes into it and a high level of testing that goes into it, right? So first things first was PMAX heavy. Second thing, which can be applied to multiple traffic channels, is actually they were using one target ROAS across a lot of different types of products, right? As you know, different products have different AOVs, different margins, so you can't really have one ROAS, right? So you really want to really understand your numbers per product, per category, and optimize based on that. And then the third thing was actually the keywords were built around the product, not the customers. So this is very important when you're doing keyword research, is actually understanding your different ICPs and understanding your customer. Why will somebody buy your product? What are the different pain points? And that's how you're going to be able to scale Google. Because a lot of the time I audit many accounts, a lot of the time they're just doing your boring BS of branded shopping, branded search, and bidding on like bottom of funnel keywords, right? Like that's not really going to take you to the next level, okay? So this is how you're going to get to the next level. So let's just go over to the next slide. So let's talk about the rebuild, right? So there were 3 tiers, 3 budgets, and 3 ROAS targets, right? So first things first, segmentation is very important for Google. And if you look at my previous videos, I preach this a lot, right? So the first tier was obviously your bestsellers, right? So we had dedicated campaigns for each tier. So bestsellers were in their own campaign. And again, I'm going to break down, some things on the GMC, but it's very important that you identify the different tiers. So for example, in this case, we had bestsellers, we had products that had potential, but didn't have the volume that the bestsellers did. And then we had more, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel type keywords that were less competitive, less search volume, but they were bringing in, high ROAS and good levels of growth with good CPCs, right? So once you've identified this, right, you want to segment that out, then you need to understand, okay, which budget am I going to allocate to each campaign and how am I going to structure each one, right? So this is very important. Let's go over to the next slide. So another important thing is actually you want to always segment your PMAX campaigns, right? Now, it does depend on a few variables, but a lot of the time, having one PMAX for everything just doesn't make sense. What works well actually is segmentation by customer type, right? So I can give you guys an example. Let's say you guys have a hero product, right? And you guys actually understand there's a specific ICP that is going after that product. What you want to do actually is within that PMAX campaign, have 3 to 5 asset groups that's all focused on this ICP, but different variations of it. So different keyword batches, different demographics, there's a bunch of different things. And then if you're doing a PMAX feed only, then obviously you just be targeting shopping. But if you're doing a full build PMAX, then actually you can have different per asset group, make sure the messaging is consistent, right? So if there's one sub ICP, you want to have consistent images, copy, headlines, And even better if you can run that to custom pages like an advertorial listicle. That's working really well right now. And this is a similar structure that we do for standard search as well, right? But when you have one PMax for everything, everything's being mixed together. Google is really confused at this point, right? You want to make Google's life easier, right? And quality score is very important. How are you going to rank high? By giving Google clear signals, right? So that's why segmentation is very, very important. So this was one thing that we done a lot, is actually segmentation by PMax and also segmentation by shopping and search. Very, very important, right? Because the account had data, but we had to now start scaling horizontally. When you scale, it's not just about increasing budgets. A big part of it with Google is actually scaling horizontally and start expanding based on what's working. So you can look at auction insights, search terms report, different products that are getting impressions and sales and that sort of stuff, right? Now, in terms of the different intents, right? So you obviously had your customer type, right? So somebody's buying it for personal use. It's not the same as someone buying it, for commercial use, right? So you need to understand what exactly is your product, who are you selling to. Also, another important thing is the keywords you're targeting. This is more so for PMax and for search. Somebody that is typing in best solution for XYZ, they're ready to buy, as opposed to how to, right? This is way more up the funnel, so more top of funnel, right? So this is a different funnel, right? So if you're running these sort of keywords in a PMax or in a search, you don't want to run this to a PDP. You want to run this an advertorial and informational, educational type page, right? Because they're not ready to buy. But somebody like this, you can run that to a PDP, you can run it to a listicle, right? This is going to be very important. And one thing that's working well actually is comparison pages. So having a competitor campaign and bidding on competitor keywords, but driving that traffic to a comparison page. This works really, really well, and I recommend everyone to do that, especially if your brand and your product has a very good USP and is clearly better than the others, right? And then another thing is just use case specificity, right? So like, for example, what does the product actually do, right? What are people searching for around the product, right? So this is going to be very important. But as you guys can see, scaling with Google and just scaling with e-commerce in general, media buying and tactics and techniques is important, but it's really about principles and just your strategy and your approach. How are you approaching it, right? This is very important, and this is what I kind of want to iterate with these slides, right? Like, look at the way I'm explaining to you guys about my thought process behind this, right? So without further ado, let's keep going forward. So 5 very important things, right? So what really helped out is structure, having an account structure. And I talk about this a lot of the time, many times. Look at my previous YouTube videos as well. I definitely recommend, you actually take a look, because having a good account structure is going to be one of the most important things you can do for your Google ad account. And making sure that it's clearly segmented between bottom of funnel, middle funnel, top of funnel, branded and non-brand, new customers, existing customers. Keep that separate. Budget as well, right? You want to really understand your budgets, understand your numbers. Don't just leave this to AI or to some AI agent to control this. No, you need to be the decision maker here. Different products and different economics, right? Like I just mentioned a few slides ago, very important. You can't have one campaign with all products that have different AOVs, different margins, and you just have one target ROAS. No, segment them out. Each one is going to have a different target ROAS if you're doing a maximized conversion value, right? And typically that's what we do a lot of the time when we scale. We like to play around with the target ROAS. So we like to bid with maximized conversion value with a target ROAS turned on. This is very, very important, right? And not a lot of people talk about this. I'm about to actually break down on X, a case study. We actually got a 20x ROAS on new customers for a shopping campaign, right? And what's actually interesting is literally the biggest lever here was just titles, right? We literally just split tested a bunch of GMC titles based on search terms that were converting on the Google ad account. So very important. Before you even launch shopping, if you guys haven't launched, or if you want to optimize shopping and start to scale, look at the search terms report. What is converting? Add that into your GMC titles. And again, just optimize the feed, right? Add reviews, add promotions, optimize the images, descriptions, attributes. There's like a lot of things that go into it, right? And then again, CRO, right? There is no silver bullet in e-commerce. I could run the best Google ads ever, highest level media buying. If the PDP shit, if the offer is trash, if it doesn't even load, it's clunky, it's just not gonna work, right? So CRO, really just identify what opportunities do we have? And we're very involved when it comes to CRO as well. We make landing pages for our clients as well as doing the Google ads, right? So that's very, very important. Now, in terms of the mindset shift, and I see this a lot of people still just feel like Google ads is just a traffic channel. It's just there for remarketing. No, Google is a customer acquisition system, right? You can really scale to massive numbers. Just look at my X. I share a lot of value there with scaling new customers, right? But you need to understand that every campaign type has its purpose, right? And that's why I was saying having a good account structure is very important, right? So that's why we always test demand gen with YouTube Shorts, right? That works really well for top of funnel and for prospecting and scaling, right? Middle of funnel, we'll have PMAX, we'll have shopping, we'll have search. Bottom of funnel, we do PMAX, bottom of funnel, and we also do branded search, branded shopping, right? But having all of these things in place and actually understanding the campaigns we have and why we have them is going to be very, very important, right? Now, the most important thing is actually applying it, right? So I didn't want to make this video too long because I know a lot of people's attention span is just shit, to be honest with you. So just really focusing on the core, right? And here's some questions that I think you guys should ask right now. So pause the video and ask these. How much of your revenue is from people already going to buy, right? So actually look at your search terms and understand. Are you bidding on new customers? Is Google just a remarketing channel right now? Or is it driving new customer growth, right? Is your target ROAS the same across multiple products, or is it different based on the margins and the AOV and that sort of stuff? Very important. And then analyze your keywords in your PMAX and your search campaigns, right? Are your keyword groups built around customer search or internal product names, right? This is very, very important, right? You want to have that split between, what people are actually searching for as well as the product names. So if you find that you're capped at scale and your impression says kind of high, what you can do is just start bidding on, more top of funnel query-based keywords, right? And then drive that to an editorial, for example. That's working really, really well for us. And then order really matters, right? So here's a really good practical step-by-step process. First things first is actually really understand your structure, right? How do you want to position Google? Some people want to position it just for remarketing and increase efficiency. That's fine, right? But that structure is going to be different to somebody that wants Google to be the number one driver for revenue. So that's where, you really need to understand that. Step number 2, very important, feed optimization. Before you even think about launching shopping, optimize your feed and understand your numbers, of course. And then launch tiered shopping, right? Don't just clunk everything in. Understand what your best sellers are, your mid sellers are, the ones that have potential, but aren't, good enough to be with the best sellers, and then the ones that probably need a bunch of work. Always segment them out. And then PMAX as well. And by the way, this is what we've done with the account, but I'm just saying this is what you guys should do moving forward if you're struggling with scaling or if your account is just not efficient right now. PMAX restructure as well. Like I said here, replace broad PMAX with segmented campaigns by customer type. Now look, you can actually have them all together as a matter of testing. Sometimes we do a PMAX full build and we actually split within the one PMAX campaign the different customer types per asset group. That also works well, right? It just depends on your budget and how aggressive you want to scale. Keyword restructure as well, very important. Actually understand your ICP and understand what they're searching for and the different keyword themes. There's obviously going to be bottom of funnel, middle of funnel, top of funnel keywords. There's going to be different themes and angles that people are searching for. So make sure this is separated and really understand that. And then just the ongoing management. I didn't really go deep into the amount of work we actually put in and like the media buying and the technical sort of things. I did break that down in some of my previous videos, but very important. Just to be on it every single day, observing the data, being scientific with your approach, right? That's going to be very, very important. And yeah, that's pretty much it. If you're ready to apply this to your account, look, definitely feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to leave my link below for a free audit. We can hop on a call. I can let you know exactly what needs working and what doesn't. I can instantly spot it. Or just DM me Google. My Twitter is ecom_amin. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I really recommend you do because I post so much value on X every single day. So without further ado, hope you guys enjoyed this video and it feels good to be back.